I thought initially I'd show some slides, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to use my 10 minutes to make a few remarks. When I was asked to do this, the letter that came through asked 3 questions to prompt thoughts about what to present, and I'll try to answer them. You do need to turn the lights down because I'm not going to show pictures. Does online distribution offer opportunities to the independent publisher? Well, yes, and unqualified yes. Both in terms of the making and distribution of e-books and other non-physical products, and in the marketing and sale of physical books, there are tremendous opportunities. And they're not just opportunities for publishers, there are opportunities for everybody, and notably for photographers. I should add at the beginning that I'm totally old model. I mean, I have a very prosaic website. I don't make a lot of efforts to sell books through the website, especially. My books are distributed through Thames and Hudson and DAP, the conventional channels for getting out art books. And it's a model that I'm sure everybody's aware is wearing thin. The economics are more and more frail. The bookshops are more and more demanding. The costs are higher, and so on. So it's not only that the online world offers opportunities. There's an obligation really for independent publishers, well, all publishers, to engage. But as I say, I think the main thing about what the online world offers is that every photographer is potentially an independent publisher. In lots of ways, almost everybody who's online is a kind of publisher. They're distributing their work, perhaps for a very small audience. They're just their friends on Facebook, or through Blurb. We're going to hear about Blurb. I mean, there's many variations of how individuals can publish online and build their own community. So in that sense, publishers have now thousands of competitors coming onto the market. Every photographer wants to make a book. In the past, they were reliant on a publisher accepting their book, and perhaps there were 300 or 400 photography books published in any given year. Now, there are thousands and thousands of books being made, not necessarily printed offset, but perhaps printed in very small volumes. And I do think that one side effect of this is that on balance, people are becoming discouraged from wanting to own books. It's sort of becoming exhausting. There's sort of too many. And for me as a publisher, there's also a related phenomenon of the fact that photographers are now infinitely more sophisticated in terms of knowing what they want and how they want to put things together. And I got involved in this because, like photographers, I wanted to make books. And I think one of my criteria has often been to be able to see a space for me in the process. So I would often not be interested in a photographer who brought a kind of finished dummy that was polished, and all it left was the kind of marketing and distribution, the kind of less interesting bits of the process. So I was interested in books where I could see I was needed, and I feel less needed now because photographers know more and more how to do it and what they want. I think that what they want is probably more important. People have got very specific ideas of what they want. And I think that challenges the value that the independent publisher brings. I do think that iPad changes everything. I was in New York a few days ago, and in the subway carriage where half of the passengers were using an electronic reader, so clearly our reading habits, our consumption habits are changing dramatically. So I think a lot of the advantages that small publishers had in the market are seeping away. And so it's a very challenging time for us. I guess that answers the second question I was asked, what does the changing context mean to me? Well, I said a little bit about what the challenges are as, for me as a publisher, but for me personally, just to say something about that. I mean, another thing about the criteria for the books that I've published is that I want to own them. I make books because I want to have them. I mean, it's part of the kind of desire to have them. There are books that I've done that I thought other people would want, but I didn't particularly want, and those were not the successful ones, and I don't do that anymore. And that was the kind of the point at which I tried to do more commercial books, but I realised all I did was less interesting books. So I've learned that I have to trust my instincts about things, and that's the central part of what it is that I do, is trusting my own instincts. So my own instincts in relation to books, they're changing. My feelings about books are changing. They're becoming a burden. Physically, as a publisher, as any small publisher in the room will know, physically they clog up your life. I mean, I work from home, and I think it's now like 4 rooms that are full of boxes of books. That's a special publisher's problem. But just as a consumer of books too, there's so many books. So many people that I know who collect books are now looking for, they've got a problem. They've got a problem with space, they don't know what to do, they're looking for something to give them away. So I think there's becoming a kind of conceptual problem with the physicality of the book. They are, after all, ecologically unsound. I mean, never mind whether the amount of whether trees go into them at all. I think a lot of paper is not now made from trees at all. But even if all of the materials involved in the production of the book are sustainable, the amount of kind of oil-driven haulage, especially in the old model that I work in, where I print in China, I ship books to a warehouse, the warehouse ships books to. I mean, the number of journeys that a book goes on to get to a bookshop is kind of phenomenal and frightening. So I think the whole model is unsound, and I think I think the mood is changing. I think people are becoming less materialist. People want less stuff, and none of this is an argument that to suggest that photographers shouldn't want to make books, shouldn't want to make a book to communicate to their audience about who they are and what they're interested in. But I think as for a consumer, well, for me, I still want the experience of the book. I want everything that Gerhard was talking about before. I want to be able to smell it and feel it and hear the sound of the turning page and get that experience full on. It is a pure and wonderful thing when it's great and there's nothing else quite compares with it. I would like to be able to repeat that experience, meaning I'd like to go back to the book, but I don't want to own it anymore. I don't want to have it. I don't want the burden. I'd rather it be shared. So I guess what I'm saying is, I want libraries, not books to possess. I want a digital reference to it, and obviously I'm going to have to pay for that one way or another. I want to be able to go back to it without actually having to travel to the library, but to be able to go and see each page or look at that combination, or maybe I'm doing a talk, or I want to be able to refer to it again, but I don't necessarily need to refer to the physical thing. So I do want to be able to access all the books that I might ever, that I've ever had or might want to have. I want to be able to have reference. So yeah, I can't answer. So the last question is, what directions do you see photography publishing going in? And I can't really answer that, but I do feel that I've got, whatever I'm doing, I've got to trust those instincts of my own to a point. I think it's very interesting hearing your remark earlier about the kind of, this is Steiger's time, and it's very curious to try to imagine what is the next, what will the shape of the next publisher's time be, and and I mean, I can only imagine it involves a lot of different things. Less books, for a start. Probably more titles, but less physical books. And I think the publisher of the future has to be a mix of library and community, as well as the producer of physical products. My thoughts. Yeah.